Hello, unboxy box time. Look what's rocked up in the post today. Finally got these Age of Chivalry Foot Knights from Wargames Atlantic. Been looking forward to these, and they have some fantastic looking artwork of how they can be painted up. 24 Foot Knights, coming a bit over $50 Australian, so around about $2 per figure, which is pretty good value. Supposed to be from $11.50 to $13.20, so fair span of time that we get out of these figures. There's 4 sprues with 6 guys each on them. Let's have a look. So 24 guys all together. Check out the sprue here. So first up, we see quite a lot of good head varieties, and what I do like here is you've got quite a lot of helmets fully enclosed, but then you've got some with some face on view, and then some that quite a lot of face on view, and some totally totally bareheaded. So you've got quite a lot of options there. How many we got? 10 heads there, and was there some more heads elsewhere? Maybe not. No, 10 heads. Okay, good. And then you got 6 bodies. But the cool thing is here, what they've done is obviously they've divided the body into the lower half and the upper half, so that you have almost infinite permutations of how you arrange the the 2 halves, and that just takes a few seconds to connect them up, and also means you can obviously rotate the positioning quite a lot, so you can just blow the amount of options absolutely out of the water. Huge variety available from this one kit. I do like quite the fact that there's 24 in a box. I mean, a lot of companies make much bigger sets, but often want small numbers, and obviously if you want more, you just buy a couple of boxes or however many boxes you need, and so you can make a huge number of different permutations out of these. What about weapons? We've got quite a good variety here. Lots of swords, axes, 1, 2, just one more, yeah, 3 axes. These weapons, which I did look up the name and now I've totally forgotten. I'll put the name on the video, but kind of like a machete. Got a couple of them at least. There's another one. And then you've got some maces here, sort of nasty little axe there. There's another mace up here. And then a whole lot of more swords here, and then a whole lot of sidearms. Swords you can snip off the top if you want it just a scabbard for those who've already drawn their swords. Shields, you've got plenty of options. What have got? 6 different, so 1 each, but 3 different varieties. A fairly large sort of kite shaped ones, and then this more teardroppy one. Some of the weapons are double-handed. This guy, so you can see he's got one hand on the axe there and the other hand on the axe there, and what they've done is then give you some arms that don't have hands on them, so these ones which are to connect up. They've never had instructions for certainly none of the historical kits before, and they don't again, but at least they have a numbering system. So D2 I assume goes with D1, and A2 with A1, which will be with that double-handed axe and so on. So that at least gives you a guide how to put the correct arms together. Let's have a look at the back. So actually, before we do that, just on the bodies, they look really nice. They've got a nice sort of amount of folds in the cloaks without being over the top. Same with the tunics lower down. So they look great. The back of the shields are textured to help sight them in the right place. You see they've got a little hollow in a number of spots which do fit onto a little protrusion. Where is it? Yeah, like here and here on these guys' arms, so it's easy to align the shields correctly. What else to note in the sprue? I think that's about it. So pretty crisp looking sprue. I like it. It's got a lot of variety, and I do love the fact they have the halves. I hope they continue that policy, because as I say, it just massively expands the number of different permutations of figures you can create, which is brilliant. I'm going to whack a few together, and I will bring you back, give you a look at them, and I'll compare them with some of the other nice medieval troops that I've got on the go as well. See you in a minute. Right, that didn't take long. So here's a few guys that I've put together and base coated, and I think they look really nice. They are coming along well. This guy used one of the arms that's supposed to go on a double-handed weapon, so he didn't have a hand on that one, so I've just attached a new hand to him so he can hold up the shield. The only one I had a bit of trouble with was this guy, who was meant to be the double-handed Falchion, and I just couldn't get, even though I used the right hands, like the whatever it was, D1 and D2 or something, I just couldn't get them to meet where the other hand was supposed to be. So I basically trimmed off the top hand and put on a different one, which makes him look a bit odd. So he's the only one I'm not totally happy with my construction work. It's probably me that got it around the wrong way, but they were a bit tricky to get the hands together. It does make me wonder why they went with that system when previously they had from the Persian archers, Persian ancients set, they had some double-handed ones where the two arms were attached to the weapon, so all you had to do was pop them onto the body. I think that's probably a better method. I'm not sure why they moved away from that. Anyway, makes it a little bit more challenging to put them together, but nothing drastic. Now, what about their contemporaries? There's lots of other fantastic ancient miniatures out there. Perry I've reviewed recently, gold standard, scale-wise, basically exactly the same with these dudes. V&V I've also reviewed recently. I don't know if he can squeeze in. He can just, can't he? He's on the hill. Hang on. Shove over dudes. Let's get him up. So V&V, Genoese archer or crossbow man. He maybe is a tiny bit taller. I might just get rid of a few of these so I can get a better, fairer comparison with a fairly upright figure. How do they go? So, oh yeah, tiny bit bigger, very minimal in it really. And one other comparator. This is a Medbury miniature from Proxy Wars, which no prizes for guessing. I'm going to be reviewing them pretty soon as well. So he looks almost exactly the same again, so they all work very well. That will be ideal to go together, I'd say. Spin him around and look at the back. Yeah, look, hardly any difference in scale there. All right, good. I will get on and paint these guys up a bit more and give you a looky. See you in a minute. Looky time. So this is a Knight of Jerusalem. Beautiful fella. I'm very happy with him. I'll put up some other ones that I'm very happy with. This guy, the Mace, bit of a legend, and this sort of Germanic commander. Coming together really well. I'm very impressed with those ones. Some other ones which I wasn't 100% thrilled by was this guy who I did show earlier. I had the difficulty, getting his double-handed setup going, so I just modified him to have the Falchion in the left arm. And then two more I've done to just with a teeny bit of kit bashing experimenting. So this one has a head off a Medbury fella that I chopped off and just added to him, just really showing the scale is totally compatible. So he's a nice guy. I've done that sort of carafe around his neck just to smooth over the connection point. And then I did one more similar colour scheme with a Perry Miniatures head, just to give a different head style. Now you'll notice he's got a double-handed weapon again, and I did run into the same problems I had with this guy, that it's just so tricky to pose the hands in the right position. So you'll see his wrist is a bit wonky, and basically I had to use a bit of green stuff to connect it up to the hand. So the hand is molded onto the weapon. The right arm comes without a hand, and you've got to connect that onto the weapon once you've posed it right. But yeah, I just struggled with that. It was very challenging. I haven't seen anyone else comment that they've had difficulties on that, and I've looked at a few other reviews of these guys, so maybe it's just me, but it's certainly something to bear in mind. It's a little difficult. If you really find this problem and you can't do it, there's enough single-handed weapons that you don't have to use the double-handed weapons. It's a pity they put them in that they're so tricky to use. Anyway, that is a minor detraction. These guys are meant to go from 1150 to 1320, which is a large space of time. And I did have a quick look at what sort of wars and conflicts they could be appropriate for, and there's a hell of a lot. So rather than speaking in generalities, let me just run you through the little list of ones that I've written down. So the Norman invasion of Ireland, 1169. I didn't even know they had invaded Ireland. 1173, English revolt. So England were involved in conflicts with France, Scotland, Flanders, Bologna, and Brittany at that time. Then we've got the Crusades. These guys were just a bit too young to get involved with the first Crusade, but they could have participated in any of the second through the seventh Crusades. There was also the Baltic Crusades in Northern Europe that they could have got their swords stuck into. Then we had an Anglo-Norman War, 1202 to 1204. Anglo-French War, 1202 to 1214. The Mongols versus, pretty much everyone through Asia and into Eastern and Western Europe. So it's about 1206 to 1337. They could have, these guys could have opposed the Mongols. The Barons' Wars in England, 1215 to 1217, and this kit is designed with that in mind to go with a game of the same name. There was a War of the Lombards, that's 1228 to 1243. That involved Genoa and the Templars and the Pope versus the Holy Roman Empire. Pisa, the Knights Hospitallers, and the Teutonic Knights. 1262 to 1266 was the Scottish-Norwegian War. Anyway, the list goes on. The point is there's a lot of capacity for these guys to get stuck in and do some damage, not just in the Holy Lands, but right throughout Europe. So there you go. That is my little review of them. In summary, I think they're great figures. They're a really good addition to the medieval knights range. They have a couple of issues. The one with the posing of the double-handed weapons. The only other thing that's a minor detraction, that chainmail is a little bit on the soft side. In other words, there weren't the big grooves. So it looks all right, but they're not quite as prominent and impressive as some other miniatures of this scale, but yeah, they're good. And as I said earlier, I think the fact that you can position their bodies, so the bodies and the lower half, top half and the lower half come separately, you can position them in so many different ways, is brilliant. So very handy kit to have available. And if you're interested in more medieval stuff, stick around. I've got another review coming up. That's the Medbury ones made by Proxy Wars pretty soon. In fact, probably in the next 4 or 5 days. And also I've got some Reconquer design ones that should be arriving at my place pretty soon. And what else I've got coming? Oh yeah, and I've just ordered the Victrix new medieval mounted knights, so they'll be hopefully here in a month or so. And if it's Wargames Atlantic stuff you're most interested in, I'm also working on the the Citizens of Rome box set, which is actually really cool. So I'm going to do a review of that probably the next week. So you know what to do. Subscribe or you'll miss out. You know it's the right thing. All the best from the Great Southern Ancient Miniature Man.